We are joined at the Combine in Indy by Panthers Executive Vice President of Football Operations, Brandt Tilis. I want to start with your time with the Kansas City Chiefs. You were there when Patrick Mahomes was drafted, and it fundamentally changed the mitochondria of that team's franchise, take us behind the scenes to when you guys made the move to trade up and go get Mahomes.
Yeah, so it probably started right around this time where we knew that Patrick was a player that could change our franchise, and so we spent a lot of time after the Combine trying to understand how far up do we have to get. We were picking 27 that year. So to move up as far as we could go, we were talking about giving up very good players. We were talking about giving up a lot of future picks, current picks. We started at 1 and worked our way down until we found the highest team possible that would trade with us, and it was the Buffalo Bills at 10. And
how did you do your due diligence, though? Like, you called the teams 1 through 9. So, do you want Patrick? Are you going to take Patrick?
We never said who we were taking.
Okay.
So there was an assumption that it could be a quarterback, but there was also an assumption that it could be like a very good playmaking defensive player. We never said who we wanted. Patrick was loved by some teams, and other teams weren't so sure about him. So we were just able to play a little coy. John Dorsey made a lot of the calls to just, all right, how far up can I get? We got to 10. We knew that a couple weeks before the draft at this point, and then on draft day, we drafted him. Well, we traded up, and we drafted him, and it was as euphoric as I've ever seen a draft room.
What was it about him that you guys knew? Because clearly not every team knew. What was it that convinced you guys?
Just his innate ability to make plays when there was no play to be made, I think, was the number one thing. But for me, I mean, I was doing contract research and some low-level negotiations at the time. I wasn't really evaluating players, so nobody really cared what I thought. I could just tell based on the conviction of all the stakeholders that this was going to be a guy.
Because I remember when he was coming out and he played in that Cliff Kingsbury offense in college, everybody wondered, would that translate to the NFL? And there were a lot of questions about that.
Yeah. And you saw the arm strength, you saw the arm talent. And even the thing for me, like, I was doing some analytics work at the time, and the thing for me that I remember in the research was Patrick was one of the few players that was, quote unquote, first round pick worthy that had a losing record in college. And so we started looking at the losses. And we're like, this guy's averaging like 45 points in losses.
Yeah, he can't play defense, in other words.
Yeah.
Part of what you do is you got to figure out what the number value is, whether it's in the draft or in free agency. Without getting specific, I know you don't want to touch on specific players, but take us into how that valuation process works from the front office standpoint.
Yeah, it's a collaborative process. It's understanding what do our coaches value in their scheme with our current roster state, and what players are available. So what's the quality of player who we're looking at, and there's no science to it. We don't have a magical like algorithm or formula. It's really a lot of feel, and it's a lot of discussion, and then we can end up at the right place.
When you look at free agency, when you look at the draft, how much do you quantify the position groups to say, hey, this is a deep draft class for D linemen and edge rushers. We can get value later in the draft, or this free agent class is deep in a certain position where if we don't chase high dollar for the top guy, we can get maybe 80% of that production for 25% of the price. Like, how much of that is part of your calculus?
A little bit. I really like to rely on our scouting staff.
Okay.
To understand like how good are these players, because typically the best players get picked early. The best players get paid a lot of money, regardless of position. And so like let's just understand. All right, who are the best players, and and can they make an impact on our roster? And then from there, we're also talking about, okay, we're in free agency. Let's fill as many holes as we need so we can play a football game the day before the draft. Right? We're not actually playing a game, but like, let's not get into the draft and say we have to get this position.
So you want essentially a functional roster pre-draft.
That's the ideal. It's hard to get there. Like I think in my last couple of years in Kansas City, we were able to get there, but that's what every team is striving to do, so that you can truly go best player available.
Yeah, and so that brings me to that question. Best player available then becomes what you want to aspire to.
Yeah, and we'll still do that, right? And best player available is a combination of talent and need, and so like we're gonna get there, and Dan and Dave have a great vision for how they want to build this team, and I have no doubt that we're going to get there.
When you guys are presented with a trade for a draft pick, how do you determine the value of that pick?
We got these charts, right? So the charts is one way, and this year we hired Eric Eager, and Eric and his group have been amazing at creating new charts and looking at things in a different way.
How so?
It just as far as like what's a different way to approach the value of what we're giving up and what we're receiving, and so we do it that way, and then we also look at history, but we also have to look at the local factors, look at the board. Okay, if we trade back this far, what does that mean? Like, who is that going to take us out of? And I think that's lost a lot of times when we're evaluating draft day trades is what is the true opportunity cost? There are there are quote unquote good trades or quote unquote bad trades, but at the end of the day, it's about the players who you pick.
Yeah. Salary cap increase league wide. That gives you guys more money to play with in the draft and in free agency. How does that impact the offseason?
Pretty significantly, right? The cap's going up, what they say, at least $22 million or so. So that's always a good thing as far as being able to retain players, being able to go out and acquire players. Now, every other team is getting the same benefit, so it makes our planning a little bit easier, but it also probably raises some prices in some places, which is natural. But at the same time, like, we do have to stay measured. And
when you say stay measured, what does that entail?
Not going too crazy over the fact that this cap's going up this much. So much of this,
not overpaying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's part of it, but also like understanding, okay, this decision now is going to impact us in the future, and understanding, okay, how much money are we really getting here, right? So the cap's going up by 20 million or so, and that's roughly what, like 7 to 8% of what it was.
You're the math guy.
Yeah. But how much, our current players, how much of their cap numbers going up, right? Some of them are going up a lot more than 7%. The minimum salaries are going up by more than 7%. So like your discretionary income, so to speak, gets eaten up pretty quickly, even though the cap is rising.
Last thing, Brandt, when you look at where you guys are with a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, and Bryce has 3 years left on that rookie deal at maximum, does that create, from your stance and your point of view, hey, this is a 3-year window where you can really put together pieces before that decision comes to you guys where you got to pay the quarterback?
Yeah, in a sense, yes. I mean, you would think so, but at the end of the day, like, we're going to pay the best players, right? We're going to pay players who are making plays for us on Sundays, who are making this a great place to work, who are contributing in our community. And so if Bryce is one of them, then great. And
right.
We will figure it out in the other places. And, that would be a great quote unquote problem to have.
Sure.
And so I don't think we see anything as like a 3-year window, like, oh, we have to win while Bryce is under his rookie contract. Like, the Chiefs just won 2 Super Bowls with Patrick being one of the highest paid players in the league. So it's all possible. I mean, the Eagles just won last year too with Hurts, and he was making over $50 million a year. So it's it's possible. We just have to have the right people in place, and we can do it.
And you're one of them.
I hope so.
Brandt Tilis.